I'd like to call to order the June 20th, 2017 Board of Commissioners meeting. Please silence your cell phone, your pagers, and other electronic communication devices. And if you need an agenda, they are in the back on the bookcases. First, we'll have a moment of silent reflection and then Pledge of Allegiance led by the librarian for Rapid City, head of the library, I should say, Mr. Jim McShane. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we'll have the review and approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by LaCroix,
Second?
second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have Ms. Holly Hennies.
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items 5 through 8. Number 5 is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of June 6, 2017. Number 6 is the minutes of the special meeting from June 7th, 2017. Number 7 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of May 2017 as submitted by Human Resources. And number 8 is to authorize a general fund contingency transfer to the Public Defender Witness budget in the amount of $150 as requested by the Public Defender's Office.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Is there anybody from the audience who'd like to pull any items 5 through 8? Yes, Ms.
It's not $150, it's
$150,000.
Yes?
Sorry if I didn't read that correctly.
Thank you, Ms. Auditor. Is there anybody from the board who would like to pull any items 5 through 8?
I need to respectfully request number 5 to be pulled, please, for a correction.
Okay, Ms. Holly, number 5. The board?
Number 8.
Number 8. Mr. Buskerud? Anybody else? If not, can we have a motion?
So moved.
For items 6 and 7, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
And to pull off items 5 and 8. Did you get that, Ms. Kara? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Ms. Holly.
Item number 5, we just need a small correction. If you look at the minutes on page 12, in the personnel section, we have one listed under an incorrect department. We need to change Robert Dwyer to be under the treasurer's office and not the state's attorney's office.
Do we have a motion to switch Mr. Dwyer into say it again, Ms. Holly.
Into the treasurer's
Into
office.
the treasurer's office. So moved by Mr. DeSanto,
Second.
second by Mr. Buskerud. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Number 8, Mr. Buskerud,
Well,
please.
since we have Mr. Witcher here, our public defender, he might want to explain. I don't quite understand. There was an increase in the approved 2017 contingency budget based on anticipated increases in court costs. Is that what, does anybody remember that? Did we increase our contingency by $150,000 on an anticipated increase in court costs? I don't quite understand that. If we were anticipating it, why wasn't it in your budget?
Eric Witcher, Public Defender. I had originally requested an additional $200,000 in the anticipation of a potential death penalty notice. However, at that time, we weren't aware whether or not, and I believe that the board at some point decided to put that in a contingency fund as opposed to in my budget. And so if needed, then we'd request it in this form.
So that's an upcoming case.
Correct.
I don't suppose your defendant wants to plead guilty and take the death penalty.
I'm not at liberty to comment about the case.
Okay. Mr. Buschrood, anything else on that?
No, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Motion by Buschrood, second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now we're on the regular agenda items. Number 9 would be Mayor Steve Allender and Miss Kinsley Groot, the city attorney. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. Thanks for having this item on your agenda. I'll recap the request. The request is for the county to deed over a piece of property at 248 Curtis Street, the property that was acquired through a delinquent tax deed. As you know, one of the city priorities is affordable housing. That is a hard concept to get on the road and get something done with. There are some challenges there. Recently, through the Community Development Block Grant process, the city has received around $250,000 in funding to use toward affordable housing incentives. So we have started to put some money down on delinquent tax deeds. Most of those are paid off by the property owner. The ones that aren't paid off, we will take and use into this program. So this one at 248 Curtis is a good example. This is a residential lot with a dilapidated house that needs to be demolished. So we envision that if we were to get this property from the county, we would then pay for the demolition, we would pay for new infrastructure, grading, and make sure that that lot is in good shape for development. Our goal is to get it back into the hands of a developer and on the tax roll as quickly as possible. Some of the final details of the program are yet to be set, but the general concept is that we would use a request for proposal to find a developer or builder that would put affordable housing on that lot, agree to the terms of its affordability, and at some point eventually then the city would gift the land to reduce the costs and make the affordable housing possible at that lot. And so we would do this on every available lot where it's practical around town, all neighborhoods, wherever we can acquire this property. So that essentially is the pitch. Last night at the city council meeting, the city council authorized the city to receive this property and for me to take the deed in case the council or the commission decides to approve this request.
So, Mayor Allender, what would the motion be for this, or Ms. Kinsley or Jay, if we wanted to approve this today?
Morning, Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. There's, I believe, Holly, did you print out the resolution?
It's in their packets.
Okay.
There's a drafted resolution
So,
for your approval.
so it'd be a motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr.
can we
Buschrood.
approve that, that will become applicable tomorrow? Since it says the 20th, isn't today the 20th? So we probably haven't taken deed to it yet.
I talked to Annette with the Treasurer's Office just this morning, about 10 minutes ago. The deed will be typed up this morning in the county's name, and then the resolution sets out that once that happens, the auditor and the chairperson will sign a quitclaim deed over to the city. Because we can't do that until we take ownership of the tax deed. So that's all happening today.
Thank you, Jay. Any discussion from the board?
Yeah, Madam Chair, don't we have to go through the surplus process first?
It's in the resolution,
So it's all one.
correct? That's perfectly acceptable.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion by Buschrood,
Second,
second by LaCroy. Approve the resolution. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fairby, or Fairby, LaCroy.
No, I'm better looking than that.
I disagree with that. But Mayor Allender, I just want to thank you because I think this is a great program to move forward with. I think there's been some discussion on trying to do this type of thing in the past, and I think this is a good step to move forward. And I appreciate the steps and the commission working together to help this get done. Because I think we've heard a lot of talk about the properties that need work and so forth, and trying to turn them into affordable housing. I think this is one step that we can all work together. And looking forward to working with the city and the commission on other items that will come forward.
I appreciate that. It's an honor for me to be able to engage in any type of partnership with Pennington County. That's good for our constituents, no matter where you live in this county, and affordable housing is a big deal, and we can do our part, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I too thank you, Mr. Allender. Working with you and the city council has been a great partnership. Your council has been very cordial to us, as well as yourself. So we appreciate that partnership as a commission as well, because it only helps, like you said, our constituents in both areas, and I think that's pretty awesome. So thank you for your help. There is a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Number 10 is the update on county comprehensive plan. Mr. Rick Rust.
Actually, Mr. P.J. Conover, Director, Planning Department. Mr. Rick Russ, Vice President from Matrix Design Group, is here actually to give us an update on the workshops that were conducted a couple months ago. First, we had one meeting in Hill City, one in Rapid City, and one in Wall. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Rust.
Good morning, Rick.
Well, good morning. It's good to be back here, and we're having another full week of activities in Pennington County. Wanted to give you a quick update. I know you've got many things on your agenda today, so be a little auctioneer for you, but certainly can slow me down if you need to know anything further. Want to give you an update on what's happened as far as our first set of workshops, which were in April. A little bit about what we're doing now, which is the existing conditions review, and then upcoming public workshops that we have starting tonight. As far as project status, this is our overall task listings. A number of things are currently in process. Our main focus right now is doing the existing conditions and trends write-ups. So this is looking at all of the factors that influence your future and provide a good statistical background, if you will, for some of the items that we look at. Items that have been prepared, you've all seen the flyer that we did for the first workshop, and we'll pass that out again tonight. We had 3 public workshops at different areas of the county, which we'll go into in a few minutes. And also have developed the website, which is a good resource for everyone in the county to keep up with the project at view22040.com. And from here, on the right side of the page, you'll see a green tab. If anybody wants to make a comment in the future, they can click on that and provide their comments. And the orange tab is a good way to join our email list. As far as workshop number 1, as with all of our public workshops, they're held at 3 different areas of the county. Kind of similar to the logo and how we reflect the hill areas, more in the Rapid City and the urbanized components of the county. And then on the east end, we had a meeting out in the city of Wall. During that meeting, we asked some general questions, kind of like a good chance to get familiar with our group. And that group was about 32 people in total for the different workshops. So we had about 10, 12 that would show up at each one. So these are not statistical results by any means, but for these 30 people, it gives you a snapshot in time. How long have you lived? It's very often we get those that have lived here longer to participate, but we also had some that were only here in the 1 to 5 years. So it does provide us a broader range of inputs on what are the needs of our current residents as well as those that may come in the future. As far as how they found out about the meeting, word of mouth and the other was usually an email chain of somebody passing it on to somebody else or their Facebook posts, etc. And we encourage anybody to help us get the word out, because the more people that we can have at these workshops, the better results we'll get out of it. This is kind of interesting, in fact, when you ask people, are they familiar with the comprehensive plan, or even do they know it exists? And for most, it was no. You had a few that had some general idea about what it was in general, but not the details of it. So that's an important part of our outreach at this time, is to get more people familiar with the document, because we think it provides a better document long-term and also provides for better implementation as we go forward. Just to get some general ideas how people perceive the school system. In general, most were thinking it was very good to good, which is an important part of developing an economic development potential and workforce in the future, is to have that good education system. How would you rate county services? Actually, this is a pretty good score for most places we've been. There seems to be good to average as far as appreciation of the overall county service set, and so that's actually a pretty good rating. By and far, when we ask about what are the biggest assets for the future, quality of life was the big deal. Be it the rural lifestyle, the natural resources in the area, the wide open spaces, that quality of life that people grew up with or moved here for is a major part of what people want to preserve. Biggest threats, we're talking about lack of jobs that could sustain a family. Range of housing was a big deal in a couple of different locations we were at, as far as providing some choice or providing any housing. In some places they felt they didn't have anything to even buy if they would like to. And then infrastructure, just maintaining the infrastructure moving forward in the future. You think the county should have building codes and building inspections? And the answer for that was 50% said yes, with another 34% yes, depending on the type. This is one of the questions we'll follow up with the community members tonight, is asking, well, what types of things do you think that's appropriate for? What are you really looking to do, and how does that vary? Now, we had 3 very divergent parts of the county, and the answers were different depending on which part of the county we're in. And as we've talked with all of you before, we're looking to develop a comprehensive plan that addresses different looks at how we provide the comprehensive plan as we go to different areas within the county. Parts that are right around Rapid City and other communities may need different kind of looks than somewhere on the far east side of the county, or even up in the hill areas. So we want to make sure that we provide a comprehensive plan that matches those needs and doesn't try to provide one size to fit all. Does the county have appropriate controls on septic? This one varied quite a bit depending on where you were located, but most came out with it being just right as far as what's currently being required. And the last one, should structures be excluded from floodways? Depends on location was part of the answer. This was more in the rural areas where they felt accessory structures and other small structures are appropriate in those kind of areas. But in more developed areas, this was something to stay clear of. We asked people to give us their ideas on opportunities and issues, and we really push people to give you the positive things or the opportunities, because it's very easy to write what are some issues to be addressed, but we press them to give us some good opportunities, because these are important for us to take advantage of. So you can see on here are the top items that came up: recreation amenities and opportunities, good natural resources, the tourist industry in general, educational institutions such as the college. Value-added agriculture was an opportunity, taking the products that are produced here and actually converting them into the next stage of development and capturing more of the money off of that agricultural resource. And historic resources as they exist throughout the county. Top issues were lack of affordable housing, and when we say affordable here, we're talking about workforce housing. If a family makes a decent income, can they afford to buy a home in the areas they would like to live? Road maintenance. Disconnect with county commissioners. This was more in the line of just the size of the county and being able to get a face-to-face sometimes with different commissioners. Inequalities in taxation, lack of year-round jobs, and different levels of service for rural and urban communities and how that should be set up. And there obviously are differences in that. You don't have sewer pipes that run out to the far reaches of the county, so you're going to have some differences, but how to set those expectations. Worked with the individuals on developing a vision statement. That is, what do they picture the county being in 2040? And some of the top assets, adjectives, values, we gave them a kind of fill-in-the-blank sheet if they'd like to start with that, and they could pick out certain words or develop their own as far as what they would describe the county in the future. And the vision statement that they sort of worked on, and we'll have them work on this a little bit more in the next few days. Pennington County is a unique part of South Dakota that is built on a sense of community and security. We pride ourselves on having natural, cultural, and historic resources that respond to our many needs. The county continues to grow in a manner that ensures new growth improves careers, housing, and retains our excellent schools and quality of life. So you can kind of see some of those flavors that came in from the issues and opportunities are showing themselves up as we go through this vision statement. Now, vision statement provides kind of a guide for how we move forward in some of our policy work, and this will be something we'll touch on with you again, as well as at our workshops the next few days. As I mentioned, one of the big things we're going through right now is existing conditions review. It's important for us to understand where we are and how we relate to the state or other areas in the state. And what are our trends that we're facing for the future? How big are we going to grow? What kind of housing needs do we have, and where is that happening? I won't go through the whole set, but if you'd like to see more, come to the public workshops and we'll give you a bigger set of graphics. But as far as the county's population, it is growing, although the trends, it's flatter in the unincorporated areas and growing at a steeper rate in the incorporated communities. The growth rate overall, looking at now, you're about 106,000 and going in 2035 to 130,000. This is just based on statistics that were developed by the South Dakota State University Census Data Center. And we've got to project this out a little bit further, 2040, to match where we're going. Countywide, looking at, so the existing conditions provides us a look at a wide range of things: population, housing, incomes. Here's a picture for employment and showing where the major employment sectors are in the county. And again, this is important because it helps you figure out which areas are being successful, which areas you need to focus on, which areas you may have thought were always the big deals but maybe aren't, and you may be moving your resources to other ways. So this is just, this is what that document provides for us as a good basis of looking forward. All right, so wanted to highlight and advertise and take this opportunity since you have a crowd here today. We have 3 workshops coming up. We're going to be in Keystone tonight at the Keystone Community Center. All these meetings start at 6 p.m. All the meetings are exactly the same except for those that are involved. So come to anyone you'd like. They're not specific to the area, but certainly have that kind of focus. We'll be in Wall on Wednesday night out at their brand new Wall Community Center. And then also in Rapid City, we're going out to the Black Hills University this time to provide us kind of a middle ground between Rapid City, Box Elder, and the other county areas in that middle range. So we welcome anybody to come join us for those meetings. Tonight we'll be talking about, we'll look at that final vision statement, have people help us refine and tweak it. We'll also take some of those issues and opportunities they identified and have them give us a little bit more specifics, because those are a little bit broad still. We need to kind of narrow that down to what actually is being looked for. Our next workshops will be on actual alternatives. Alternatives deal on 2 different things. One is the things you might see like land use. So for instance, at the workshops, we'll be asking people, where would you like housing to be developed around the different communities, especially the unincorporated community areas. So we'll have a land use map and changes that may come with that. And then we'll also have topical alternatives that deal with specific topics like natural resources perhaps, or transportation, other items that are important to a comprehensive plan. For as the name alludes, we cover a broad range of topics that are important to the future of the county. We'll be back to talk about alternatives in the fall. We'll wait till we get after the tourist season, because I know we tried to sneak in right at the very beginning of it now, and it's getting busy for some of our business owners and such to be involved. So we'll hit that up in the fall after Labor Day and go through some of those alternatives. Over the summer, we'll also be producing the existing conditions and trends report, so you'll be able to look at that and take advantage of all that information. So we said, like, keep up. There's the website address, and hopefully didn't auctioneer my way there too fast.
Perfect. Board, do we have any questions for Mr. Rust? Thank you, Mr. Rust. Eye-opening for me. Some areas where I thought I knew, I guess I didn't. And other areas, it's like, wow, you're really being thorough on what you're doing, and I appreciate that. And that's, at first, I wasn't a little apprehensive, I'm not gonna lie, about doing a comprehensive plan, but I'm impressed. So I appreciate everything you're doing in the county, going to each area. That was something that I think is commendable, because I don't think if you don't hear from the constituents in our areas, then we really, we're not getting the whole picture of what we need to do for the future. So
Right.
I really appreciate that too.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for coming. Next, we have the libraries update. We have Hill City first and then Rapid City. Is Hill City here? Miss Holly? Miss Cindy? Good morning.
I just want to say, I hope it's alphabetical, because I feel like I'm picked on all the time. How do I do this?
The Wall and the Keystone aren't here today. They couldn't make it,
Thank you.
board, so we'll just be hearing from Hill City and Rapid City today.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Cindy.
I'm Cindy Gerard. I'm the Hill City Public Librarian, and I'm also the library director. I'm also the toilet cleaner, and you name it, we do it. We're a small community. We have about 900 people in our community. So Hill City is a little bit different than some of the other places. We have a small area. We serve all of our constituents, including, as you can see by the pictures, young and old kind of intermingle. We have programming at the Boys and Girls Club. We also have programming at our library. One of our places that gets a lot of use is our computers and also our Wi-Fi. Hill City Public Library is committed to serve the needs of our community. This mission began in 1970 and continues into the 21st century. And what can you find at our library? Well, as you can see from the pictures, you can find people coloring. You can find kids doing early literacy projects. You can find programming. You can find computers. You can just plain find fun. Those are kids that came and during our Halloween. Okay, we have a knowledgeable and welcoming staff. We have a library director on staff with level 2 certification. We have books, magazines, newspapers, movies, music, audio. We have programs for both adults and children. And we have research assistants. Believe it or not everything is on Google. We have public internet computers with high-speed internet. We have, in the last year, upgraded our Wi-Fi to 50 megabytes download and 5 megabytes upload. We have test proctoring, we have homeschooling materials, and we have early literacy programs. Our circulation in 2016 was 11,314 adult books, juvenile books at 3,465. Books in print, we have 14,780. We have magazines with the circulation of 5,523. We have ebooks and audiobooks with that circulation of 1,487. And other non-print, which would include audiobooks, DVDs, and so on at 7,000. So our total circulation is 23,916. You'll notice by looking at this that our book circulation far outweighs our ebooks, and that has to do with topography. There is a lot of people that do not have internet and cannot download these things. And we kind of like to think that they like to come to the library and visit us too. We have our children's material circulations is 14,500. Circulations per capita is 6.7 items. Visits per capita is 6.7. Our registered borrows per capita is 0.8. And our public computer uses per capita is 4.2. Local income per capita basically is $28.28 per person. The county, you people pay only $15.57. So you're getting a pretty good deal. Adult programs, we have 180. We had 180 people come. Young adult programs, we had 56 per program. Children's programs altogether, we had over 1,900. Total attendance in our programs were 2,137. So basically that means about one everyone who had a card came at least once, but we know that's not true. The average attendance per program were 17. Library visits per year, we had 23,124. Reference transactions were 4,000. And our annual public service hours are 2,476. We are open from 47 to 49 hours a week. Users of the internet, almost 15,000. Annual wireless sessions, that means people that bring their own devices and use our wireless, over 17,000. We have 2,731 registered borrowers. That was as of April. And our annual program attendance, again, is 2,137. Every week at the Hill City Public Library, this is what you see. We welcome 445 visitors. We help 78 people find answers. We circulate 463 items. We provide free Wi-Fi 330 times and 143 hours on our public access computers. Just a general overview of the type of patrons we have. We have city patrons at 35%. Our county patrons are 64%. And other, that means people who buy cards from us is 0.5%. We, as you can see on our graph there, that total circulations for the county is much higher than city or other. And that's because we provide services that the county people really appreciate. And that includes not only books, also we do have quite a circulation on our DVD collection and so on. And again, this is just kind of an overview, and you can see by looking at the chart that our visitation is increasing slightly every year. So as you can see, our library is not becoming obsolete or obsolescence. We are inviting people in, and they are coming to visit us. We have goals every year, and I would like to thank my board members who are here today. They help us to have goals for each year. Utilizing the E-rate program, we have upgraded our internet speed and we have upgraded our Wi-Fi access. We also replaced tables and computer chairs. We completed the painting of the library in the garage using capital improvement funding provided by the City of Hill City. We reviewed our summer reading program. We updated library accreditation from an essential library to an enhanced library through the South Dakota State. And Michael Lewis is here today. I'm proud to say that Michael Lewis, the president of our Board of Trustees, was named 2016 South Dakota Trustee of the Year. We've added items to our makerspace. Our makerspace is very small, but it is utilized every week. And I just wanted to tell us the story of our library in a tale of three patrons. We deal with many types of patrons every day. We include homeschool families, and as you hear, you can see some pictures of some of the children that are homeschooled, and they come into our library and they do activities. They also utilize our library collection, and we have even had a shout out in the Rapid City paper. You might not notice it, but in one of the articles, one of the ladies who does homeschooling wrote how she enjoyed our library. We also do STEAM for the people who are doing, and STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And we do a lot of that in the library for our homeschool and for our regular school children too. We also have a final request. We had a patron who for years came to our library, and as a final request, she asked all of the people to donate to the Hill City Public Library. That became a way that we started now, we have through our Friends of the Library, we have a building fund. If you have come to our building, and I invite you all to do that, it's a very small building, it's very compact, and we use every inch of it. But we are a growing community and you are a growing county, we need to provide other things that take up space. And we need a space. So the Friends of the Library and some very generous donors have started a library building fund. Library improvement is the way we call it. And they have joined the one of the foundations in town here. And in a matter of less than 6 months, we already have over $13,000 in that fund. So we are looking forward. We are not looking backwards. We at Hill City believe that the community needs our services, the county residents need our services, and I thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Cindy. Any questions of the board? Mr. Farabee?
I think we should recognize Mr. Lewis for the award. You stand, we'll give you a hand.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy. Next, Mr. Jim McShane. You both state your names. Sean.
Yeah, let's see. From the beginning. Good morning. My name is Jim McShane. I'm the director of the Rapid City Public Library, at least for the next 8 weeks. This is Sean Mickle. He is the assistant director, and we're happy to have your liaison here as well, Paulette Schenk, to answer any of your questions. We have a short presentation, so Rapid City Library, it is all there. So if you come, I'm sure you've been there before, so take a look at what we've got. We have a new logo, so we wanted to show you that as well. Some of the things you may not know about the Rapid City Public Library, some of our services that we have include Book a Librarian. You can actually call up and make an appointment, personal appointment with a librarian if you've got an e-reader, if you are trying to create a resume, almost anything. The librarian will sit down with you and lead you through that. Computer classes, local history, you know all about our local history room. Home delivery service, we give personalized service to at least, currently I think it's about 80 to 85 people who are not able to get out and get to the library. And so we bring them material on I think it's every 3 weeks or so. Test proctoring, notary service, experience bags, if you're interested in learning how to play the piano, something that's close to my heart, learning how to play the ukulele. We actually have bags. One will have a ukulele in it, a book on how to play the ukulele. And if you need to learn more, we actually give classes at the library, at least for the next couple of weeks. And meeting rooms, you know all about our meeting rooms as well. So I'll let Sean take it from here.
Sean Minkle, Assistant Director, Rapid City Public Library. One of our largest collections right now, believe it or not, is digital. We are seeing growth in the use of digital collections. We have somewhere around, I think it's about 500,000 items that you can get, and that includes digital ebooks, audiobooks, videos, streaming music, downloadable albums for music, children's books. Those things are all available to anyone with a computer, a smartphone, laptop, and an internet connection. And we, like I said, we are seeing growth in that area more than any other. When you look at our physical collections, we still see that as being the largest circulation, kind of like what Cindy was talking about. It is still the most popular thing, but we are seeing that one start to go down while digital is going up. And I think that's just natural with the change that people are seeing with Amazon and Google and wanting the convenience of services. So the library follows that as well. We have about 40 research databases that are available to anyone in the county or Rapid City that has a library card. Range all across the board, whether you need to do repair on your car, or you need help getting a grant for a small business, or you just want to go and learn a new language. We have all of these available. Go on to our website, check them out.
I just wanted to highlight the Foundation Center database. That is a recent database that was funded by the Vukorovich Foundation. And if you are a nonprofit or a city department, you can call the library and ask us to do some preliminary research on finding a grant for you. And that's a service that we provide currently.
Nice.
So one of the things that we're big on at Rapid City Public Library is the community. We think that's one of the things that libraries are really strong in across the board nationwide. We are about our community. So we go out, we form partners with a lot of different places. These are some examples of different groups in the city and the county that we form partnerships with to try and provide better services for them and get a little bit of help from the library getting marketing out, making sure that we're reaching as many people as possible. We also formed a consortium with libraries in the county and a few other libraries in the Black Hills to try and provide more services there. I'm not going to read off everything. There's a lot. We do a lot of partnering. Programming. This is also something that's been growing. It's one of our fastest growing things at Rapid City Public Library, and there's always more demand for it. We have huge numbers for attendance, depending on the program. The one that you see on the bottom, there was a magician that came to teach a little bit of magic to some kids and adults in the library one day, and I think we had something like a couple hundred people there. I'm not sure exactly, but a lot. We do a lot of programming for STEAM, for that science, technology, engineering, arts, and math in our Chaos Makerspace, which I'll show in just a second. We do a lot of cultural programming, bring in speakers, try to engage the public in new ways and in ways they might not have access to otherwise. Here is some pictures of our makerspace in action. We're focusing on a lot of programming right now. You may have seen the ICPC contest recently in town, that International Collegiate Programming Contest. We think that kind of thing is important. We've got the School of Mines in town. We'd like to think that we're trying to encourage kids to maybe stay in the area, go to an engineering school. So they learn anything from, there's a kid up there that learned how to make a car and program it to do something. We have contests right now. We have Chaos Camp going on with a select group of kids that come in every other day and learn something new, do challenges together, and learn about programming, engineering in a kind of interesting and fun way. So we're really excited about those things.
And just right in the middle, the kid, his name is Josh, he actually wrote the program that created the egg that he's holding. It's an Easter egg. And he created the program, and then he printed it out on one of our 3D printers. So it's pretty amazing what they can do.
So one of the other things that libraries are really big on is literacy. And it's kind of an obvious thing, but we threw up some statistics here that might be a little bit shocking to some people. Literacy is still something that we need to consider. It's something that impacts everyone, and if you look at how kids will diverge if they're not keeping up with reading, at a certain point you're just not able to keep up with the rest of the children, and that's a problem. I've heard fourth graders is usually where it starts to happen for whatever reason, and right now 32% of fourth graders in South Dakota are below basic in their reading level. If you look at Rapid City area schools, over 50% of our schools are Title I schools, and they have typically more students that are below proficient reading. So we think that literacy is important, obviously, because we're libraries. We do everything we can to try and keep kids interested in that. One of the big programs that we have annually is our summer reading program. This year, it's probably the most successful one we've had ever, at least so far. We had at least 650 kids sign up the first day, and we've had more since then, so it is a huge success this year. I'm really excited to see where we go with that, so. Evolving services. So libraries have to change. We can't just sit there with books and nothing else. So we are constantly looking at what our patrons want, what the county wants, what the city wants from us. One of the things that we did most recently was we moved to a bookstore model, and this is a picture of how it turned out. It's still somewhat a work in progress, but essentially it was trying to make something like the library a little bit more accessible to people that just walk in the door. In the past, if you were going into a library, you had to know either the Dewey Decimal System or be really familiar with using a catalog to search for what you're looking for. We've changed it so that you can come in, look up on the wall and see, oh, there's biographies there, there's history there, there's homeschooling or cooking. That's what I want. I'm gonna go walk over to that area and browse. You can still find things in the catalog. It's somewhat of a hybrid model, similar to what you'd see at like Books A Million or other bookstores in town. So. Then the future of our library, I'm going to actually turn this one over to Jim, who's good at this one. So
I'll go back to this one and say it was obviously taken with a wide-angle lens, so it looks a little bit bigger than it is in reality, but it still is pretty big, and it's a huge area. So come on down again and take a look at it. The future of libraries in general. Lifelong learning is always going to be a really important thing, and whether it is for adults, for kids. Thomas Friedman just had an article in the New York Times recently where he said that if you go to college for 4 years and you think that you can parlay that information you get into a 40-year career, it's not going to happen. You need to learn and continue to learn if you are going to be in the workforce. And I think we are all seeing that. And so the library is going to be a major part of that. Depending on where we go, it's certainly going to be digital, but I think we are going to have to look at expanding services to the south and west in the city at least. And hoping, again, it'll be up to the new director whether they get a mobile branch or not, but I think that would be an effective way of serving more people in Rapid City and Pennington County. Chaos to Go is a mobile branch of our Chaos Makerspace, and so that will be something we'll be putting a little bit more money into, as well as establishing partnerships. That's good for the city, good for the county, and good for the library. So we hope to be doing that as well. So come and visit us. Again, our new logo, and it's all there. We hope you'll be able to find what you're looking for, and if not, book a librarian.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, great report.
No, you have information that I gave you. It should have supplementary information on everything that we gave you here, as well as the annual report for last year.
I have one question. For home delivery, how far out do you deliver in the county?
it's in, I believe, the school district. So you have to live within Rapid City School District. Because right now it's through volunteers. We don't have staffing to go everywhere in the county.
Okay.
So.
And Ms. Paula, did you have anything to say? You're our liaison for the county. Did you have maybe a few words that you'd like to say? Thank you, Jim and Sean. Thanks, Ms. Paula. I kind of put you on the spot, but.
Well, just very quickly, since the appointment to this position in March, I've been able to visit all three of the county libraries as well as the Rapid City Library. And in Hill City in Walla, I was also able to attend their Board of Directors meeting. And then I've been regularly attending the Rapid City Public Library Board of Directors meeting since since April, excuse me, and then the Rapid City Public Library Foundation meetings since May. So I've just started to get a feel of what's going on. But one of the things that I can say is that I've been incredibly impressed by the creativeness and the dedication and the quality of programs that exist throughout this county and how important that they are. When you get a chance to reach each and to visit each of the libraries, you start understanding that they reflect the personality of the communities that they're representing. So each of them has their own little unique way that they are helping to add services to their community. And then finally, how important that the county support is for each of these libraries to continue and to grow. Just before our presentation, you were talking about strategic plans for the county. The libraries will be a really important part of that growth as you're going forward. So just thank you for the opportunity of being in this position. And again, thank you for your support of the county libraries.
Thank you, Ms. Paula, for representing us. You're doing well. We appreciate that and all the information that you shared today.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Commissioner LaCroix, please.
Jim, I just wanted to make a comment. I went through a work group with you guys on the future of the libraries, and I really want to commend you guys for doing the outreach and looking forward to what, in the future, what the libraries are going to be in making a multi-purpose building in the library, you know, the book librarian. I mean, these were all things that come out of what you guys' workshop that you did, and between having meeting rooms and everything, making it more accessible to the public and stepping up and knowing with the audio and technology as it is, I think you guys are moving forward and doing a good job.
Thank you, Commissioner. Libraries really do need to adapt to what's going on today, and we're trying to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming today, and Miss Cindy as well. Board, next, we're on number 12, items from the auditor. Looks like KJ's here for us today. Ms. KJ, public hearing for liquor license transfer.
Good morning, KJ Peterson, Chief Deputy Auditor. Just one item we have this morning for the board. It's a transfer of a retail on-sale liquor license. This has been reviewed by the sheriff and the planning department, and we're requesting approval of the transfer from Horse Creek Inn Restaurant, Castle Creek Enterprises owners, to Horse Creek Steakhouse, S&S Marker Enterprises, LLC.
Thank you. We do have a motion, Board.
Move to approve.
Moved by Farabee and second by Mr. DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. KJ. Next, we have items from the Highway Department. Mr. Wilson. This would be the South Rockford project.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Wilsey, Highway Department. South Rockford Road Project, I'm bringing forward that we need to make a decision where we're going with the South Rockford project. We either move forward with the project design authorization or do a decision to repurpose earmark funds and designation of an alternate project. The South Rockford requires a decision from the Board of Commissioners of one of those two options.
Thank you, Mr. Wilsey. Board, do we have a motion to repurpose or to move forward?
I'd make a motion to move forward.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion to move forward, and Mr. Wilsey, there's been a motion and a second. Tell me what happens if we move forward.
By moving forward to project completion, a motion is needed to authorize chair to sign the work order for Interstate Engineering so that they can begin the design of the roadway. County will be involved with the design and any issues that may arise during the design, the initial completion of the plans. Also, the county will be involved in the final review of the plans from after initial completion. At that point, negotiations for right-of-way may start, and time frame for the initial completion for the final plans is estimated to be January 1st of 18. As you remember at the special meeting on the 7th, that Mr. Junt said that we have to be moving forward by December of 18. We can beat that by 11 months. Upon completion of final plans and all right-of-way negotiations, the design engineer will provide a detailed estimate of the project cost based on plans quantity, and with these figures, the commission may approve the state going to letting for the completion of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Discussion from the board on the motion.
I have a substitute motion, Madam Chair.
Mr. Farabee?
Motion task our staff to prepare the documentation necessary to comply with the requirements set forth in the South Dakota Secretary of Transportation's letter dated June 2nd, 2017, to repurpose the earmarked funds to Sheridan Lake Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to repurpose.
No, that wasn't my motion, Madam Chair. My motion was to prepare the documentation.
Okay, Mr. Wilson?
If we repurpose, county will need to submit documentation that justifies the South Rockford Road project is not progressing and will not move towards construction as identified in the environmental assessment. The county will need to inform resource agency and the public that the project will not be constructed and the funding is being repurposed for another transportation project. The county would need to enter into an agreement with the DOT agreeing to the terms explained by these two requirements, as funds will be moved from this project to another location. And the county would work with the DOT to withdraw the project. These requirements, as according to Mr. Junt, should be completed by July 5th, so the proper paperwork can be moved forward and sent to a federal highway.
Madam Chair, let me make it very, very clear. My motion is not at this point to repurpose. My motion is for the staff to prepare the documentation so that we, on the 5th of July at our meeting, or a special meeting before that, can then make the decision to repurpose. My motion isn't a decision to repurpose.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second on a substitute. Let's vote on that motion.
Can I comment on that?
Go ahead.
I don't have total disagreement with that, except I'm not sure we're doing this in the right order. Because if we vote on the motion to go ahead with the project, this motion and to have our staff do some additional work is really superfluous and a waste of time and money. So I think we should vote on the first motion first, and then if that fails, absolutely vote on the substitute motion.
That would be fine, Mr. Busker, but I think this one needs to fail, and then we can move forward, if that's okay, sir. So if this is approved, then,
Chair.
yes, Mr. DeSanto.
The purpose of the substitute motion is to basically give us more time to figure out if we're going to be able to get the paperwork and the requirements ready for Mr. Junt prior to the deadline, giving us the opportunity to know whether we are going to be able to repurpose the funds or whether we've got to move forward with the Rockford Road project. So it's given us a better view of where we're at if we do it that way, rather than if we approve it now or approve the project now, we might as well forget about the paperwork. I think that what we're asking for, Ron, is to see if we can get this done. See if we can get the requirements put together so that we can have that, we can make that decision based on that we've got that done and we have this opportunity. We can do either one. We can repurpose the funds or we can continue with the South Rockford Road project. We missed an opportunity last year to have that ability to make that decision based on both choices.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. Any other
Madam
discussion
Chair.
on this motion? Commissioner LaCroy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a last-minute thing. I think we've had a lot of discussion on this project, and I think we know whether we need to move forward or not. I think if we kick the can down the road again, just to try to get some more information, we're pushing the deadlines to the max right now, and I'm very much afraid if we continue it on, what's going to stop it from, I know they're asking for more information to see if they can get it done, but that's not saying that our staff could do the overtime and work the nights to get this done and forward. I think we need to move forward and make a decision today, one way or another. I really don't want to be part of delaying something and then end up losing funding because we waited so long. You know, we could have move forward in this way at our last meeting, our previous meetings, we could have done this. And so I'm not in favor of the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Farabee, Commissioner Farabee.
Let me remind the commissioners in the audience that we have two letters, one dated June 6th, and the second one dated June 16th, signed by the Rosebud Sioux Tribe Chairman, Mr. Kendall. At our Wednesday meeting, this letter was, the June 6th letter was before us. I don't think anybody in the audience knew it. So let me read the key part out of this letter. The June 6th letter. Given the aforementioned statements, we are in opposition to the road being paved. Wednesday night, nobody except the five of us, and probably Mr. Wilsey, probably our staff may have known about this, but 10 days later, June 16th, let me go back to June 6th letter. The project would negatively impact the cultural sanctity, serenity, and tranquility. Whether we like it or not, that's sacred ground for the tribes. June 16th, a lot of the repeat from the first letter, but a longer letter. As to the work on the road, we believe that the less intrusive approach of simply upgrading the road along the existing right-of-way is the preferred approach over straightening, widening, and fully paving the road. Now, in 2005, when this money is earmarked, this situation did not exist. To me, this is a huge, huge difference between today and 2005. We, the Board of Commissioners, need to recognize the rightful owners of 1.7, 1.8 miles of that road. Without this segment of the road, we have a road on both sides to nowhere. Now, those folks that were in the audience Wednesday night, June 7th, probably heard as I did, Mr. Norman, the lawyer for the tribes, attorney for the tribes, say that if the tribes decide to close the road for a ceremony, then they'll go through the county permitting process. The message I got from that is what I've thought all along, is that's their road and they can close it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could respond to that.
Mr. J. Alderman, please.
Thank you. Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. This issue has come up countless number of times. The issue is primarily raised by Commissioner Farabee and has been answered countless number of times. The Rosebud Sioux Tribe, for instance, in their June 16th letter, are not opposed to improving the road. They clarified that, and they said the June 16th letter supersedes their earlier letter. We also received, I believe it was yesterday, a letter from the BIA, from the Land Office, that specifically reiterates what Mr. Van Norman had pointed out on numerous occasions, and I have as well, and the agreement we reached with the tribes and the BIA in this county. And that is, when this land went into trust, that road encumbered the trust lands. The deed of conveyance specifically provides for this county road to remain in place. The trust land is subject to our county right-of-way. It is not going away. It is not controlled by anyone other than Pennington County. The agreement we reached was just another way of making that clear and understood between the entities that are at interest here. So this road is on the deed. It's a public road. It shall remain a public road. It can't be closed by just the fiat of someone. That has to come through our Highway Department and the Pennington County Commission. Mr. Van Norman, Mr. Blue Dog have been wonderful to work with. They've been men of their words. The tribe signed off on this agreement. There's absolutely zero indication of any of the things that Commissioner Farabee, frankly, has been attempting to sell us. It's unfortunate, it's misleading, and that's simply not the case. I want you to know that again.
Thank you, Jay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I have a question for Tom, and do we currently have any other agreements similar to this, like with the U.S. Forest Service? Not just with the Bureau of Indian Affairs or tribes, but other entities besides this? Is this the only thing?
We have an agreement with the Forest Service where we maintain Forest Service roads, and we have right-of-way through the forest in several locations. We have what we call our Schedule A, which outlines everything that we deal with the Forest Service. We also have an agreement with the National Park Service out at the Badlands National Park, and we have an agreement how we maintain a road through their park. Yes, we have other agreements with other government entities.
And we've never had no problems with these other entities, but we all of a sudden have one with the tribes.
We've
not
had disagreements, but we've always worked them out.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I don't think George is trying to point out that we can't trust anybody. I think what George is trying to point out is this is a business deal. This is purely business, and in a business transaction, you need to have solid contracts, and the fact that the Native American land is a sovereign nation, that contract, and Jay can correct me, should be between the federal government and that sovereign nation, not between the state and that sovereign nation. I believe that there's a difference there. There's a difference between having contracts with the Forest Service, which is our own federal government, or the Bureau of Land Management, as compared to contracts with a sovereign nation. And again, I'm going to reiterate, this isn't a matter of whether or not we trust that they'll keep their word or not. It's a matter that they're a sovereign nation. They change leadership, just like our nation does. And when that leadership changes, those leaders in the future, 20 years from now, could decide. A good example is Obamacare with our federal government. One representative of our nation for a period of time wanted this particular contract. Now a new representative of our nation doesn't. And it's going to change, obviously. And that's the fear, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, George, that you are conveying with what you're saying.
just, thank you, Mr. Commissioner DeSanto. Two things is, any of these entities could change, not just this, because it's a sovereign nation. So, and any of us could change leadership. But hopefully, when we sign an agreement, doesn't matter if it's the Forest Service, sovereign nation, or anyone, we have to trust that they'll keep that. Otherwise, we go to court, and it doesn't matter who it is. So I understand the change. I believe it's a solid contract, and that these people, Mr. Van Norman and the 5 tribes, will keep their promise just like any other contract that we have signed. It also is signed by the Department of Interior, which is the federal government. They had to approve this contract and move forward to make this a trust. So we keep saying it's between the state and different entities, but if you read the contract and it came through, it did go through the state, it went through the county, the state, and then the federal government. They approved this contract. So I don't know what else we can do except trust the Native people and this contract like we would anybody else, that they would follow through, and I believe they will. The representatives that we have talked to have been more than cordial, working with our highway department, and all I've heard is very good things. And now we are working, again, with the tribes on many things that we do, and we appreciate that. Any help we can do them, just like we talked with the city. We work with entities to come to the bottom line of what works best for the solution for both of us, and we've done that with PACE Law. And I appreciate all the work the highway department and the people that did the NEPA study work with the people of PACE Law. So I think it's a moot point for myself, but Commissioners, Busker, do you have anything?
Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Farabee.
Certainly glad that Deputy State's Attorney Alderman brought up the June 19th letter from Acting Regional Director in Aberdeen. And I'll attempt not to berate or denigrate Mr. Alderman like he decided to do to me. Key part of this letter, and you talk about a solution. The solution is very, very simple. And I've asked Mr. Norman and Mr. Blue Dog over and over the last couple of years, give us an easement. Give Pennington County an easement. How difficult is that? This letter says, therefore, we find that these existing county road rights-of-way remain in full force and effect. Where are those rights-of-way recorded? When they are ready to give us an easement or a deed, and deed would be going a little too far because then we would own the land, we the county, but give us an easement. Go right upstairs and record it. It can't get much simpler than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, are you ready to, Mr. Alderman?
Let's vote.
Let's vote. We're voting on the substitute motion, please. Roll call, please.
Buskirk,
No.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
LaCroy,
No.
Hadcock.
No. Motion fails. We are on to the motion to move South Rockford Road project into design.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Buskirk.
I think I better say something since the paper didn't think I said anything last Wednesday, but they must have missed the last 10 minutes of it. And I got to apologize a little bit. I was in the dentist chair for a little over an hour yesterday afternoon having a tooth pulled. So I'm not in the best of mood to start with. And when I read some letters we've gotten, which we've gotten quite a few on this road, that accuses us of backdoor deals, not in the best interest, it almost makes me want to vote against this road, because I think all 5 of us here have done our best to listen to everybody and to do what we think is in the best interest. Now, it may not be what you think is in the best interest, but it is for us. With all that said, I think the purpose of government, which we have forgotten a lot in the last few years, is to compromise positions. And every position is not always black or white. There are gray areas, and in politics, there's a lot of gray areas.
I was out and drove the road again Sunday, and yes, it's dusty, and yes, gravel roads are dusty, and frankly, if you drive the speed limit, they're not that bad. But I understand also that people don't drive the speed limit. I think dust is the major problem out there. I think the bridge is a major problem. Icebox Canyon is a real problem, and I don't know how you fix that. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that we go ahead and get some estimates of what this is going to cost us. And with that said, I'm going to, I guess, tell our highway superintendent that there should be some alternatives and alternates in the bidding, because I will not, I can just about promise you, I will not approve any contract that is over the earmark value. I don't want to put any more money from your budget into this project. These people want the money that's appropriated for that project stuck into their project. Well, I think the other people who have money stuck into our budget for their project don't want to give it up either. So I would surely suggest that the $8,358,860 better be the top, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about the rest of the commission, which might mean that it's a blotter instead of a totally paved road. I know that might not be what everybody wants. It's also what I consider maybe the compromise, that should help the dust situation. Is it going to make a super highway going down there? No, it's not. I still have not convinced that Hill City will benefit a whole bunch by this. I don't think there's going to be a whole bunch more bikers traveling down to Hill City. It might be a different route that they take, but I don't think there's going to be a lot more. But that being said, they can travel down a blotter road at their own risk, I guess.
Your motion, are we voting?
No,
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'm talking.
No, you're okay, Mr. Buskard. I couldn't remember if.
I'm talking to make sure the journal understands that I said something this time.
Sorry, Mr. Buskard, I couldn't remember if we were doing roll call or.
I've said enough.
Thank you, Mr. Buskard.
No, I do. I'm sorry. Couple more things. One is, I hope that we do respect pace law and the road by there and not go out onto their property, that we stay within the boundaries of what we have. I think they need the respect of doing that. And the way it sounded to me, if we do that, the last letter, they really don't have a major problem. And the other thing, I think we need to respect property owners that own property alongside and adjacent to the road. I've heard from some that they may have some problems with some realignment or whatever, and I think we need to respect those. Case closed.
Madam Chair.
I got one comment.
Mr. LaCroy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ron, for your comments, because I think it's very important for not only us as commissioners, but you in the audience to understand that, everybody has different opinions, and as Ron specifically stated, not everything's black and white, and sometimes we get emotional up here and we shut down and so forth, but we all come to consensus. But I just want to reiterate that his comments, that just because we don't all agree on everything all the time doesn't mean that they're wrong. So we respect each other's opinions.
Thank you.
Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
I'd like to also point out, in regards to some things that were reported by the Rapid City Journal, that each commissioner here answers to their own constituents. I was accused of not doing my constituents' wishes. My constituents are about 8,000 people between Highway 79 and Wall. And I've heard from plenty of those constituents that don't want us to spend the money on that Rockford Road project. I don't answer to the constituents that are living on Rockford Road or the constituents that are, I've got 8,700, I believe, taxpayers that I have to answer to. And George has his that he has to answer to. Lloyd, Deb, and Ron have theirs that they have to answer to. And not all of them, may I remind you, are in agreement with this project either. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Farabee.
Let's get back to the practical matter. Wednesday night, June 7th, I asked very specifically of Mr. Junt, do we have to do the road the way the feds want it done? And the answer was yes. What flexibility we have, we're at the mercy of the federal overseer. That's almost never, ever good. Now, having said that, and I made that point Wednesday night, now, if we pave Icebox Canyon, what you're going to have to do, how much is it going to cost Pennington County to have somebody stationed there? And you know what I'm talking about. The propane truck driver that I've known for a number of years says, whatever you do, don't pave Icebox Canyon. The UPS guy, 20-some years, don't pave Icebox Canyon. So, when you pave it, guaranteed, you're not going to be able to go down there with a pickup and some trailer with some critters behind you. That's worse than a propane truck. So how are you going to keep that paved road from being slippery? Right now, there's some gravel. Hopefully, you can get some traction on gravel. But how much is that going to cost annually? How are you going to do that? You're going to have 2 people stationed up there? That's a long ways from anywhere.
Commissioner Farabee,
Excuse me,
You're out
I
of
have
line.
the floor.
you have the floor, but you're
I'm
voicing
asking
it to
him.
him. He doesn't know he's in design.
Fast forward. Fast forward, what are you going to do with Icebox Canyon for 6 months out of the year? 7 months, some years there's 7 months of winter.
Thank you, Mr. Farabee. Any other comments from the board?
Can Tom answer that?
I can answer that. Actually, I went to the DOT and talked to him. You can put high friction aggregate on it. There's different types of stuff that you can put on the edges with the baskets that Tom talked about. They said there's many different things for that design on Icebox Canyon, and they've been doing this a long time. They did it in Boulder Canyon, they said, and 14 other areas to protect Icebox Canyon. So Tom doesn't need to answer that, and I think when we do the design, this board, and I respect that we all go and see what's going to happen in Icebox Canyon, because there is alternatives to protect those types of roads. In the county, we have lots of different roads that have those high grades to them, that they have to do different things to protect them, to make sure accidents or different things don't happen. And that's what the DOT told me. Icebox Canyon is just one of those out of 14 that can be protected the same way. Now, again, on the costs, I think we need to keep in budget. I agree with that. But one thing I do disagree with is I've been a city council person and a county commissioner both. I've never said, go call him or her if constituents have an issue. I take care of everybody. I'm never stuck in my area. I've never been just in my area. I take care of anybody who calls me. If it's something that needs to be changed, of course, then I have to contact the person in that district. If it's something that I can direct them to or help them with, that's pretty simple. I help anybody. So this is a team effort of 5 people in the county to take care of their constituents. It's not about your constituents or mine. It's about Pennington County. So I appreciate that thought, but you can call, any constituent can call me at any time. I don't care what district you're in. If people want to be specific, that's fine, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but I mean it for me. I'm here for anybody who needs help. So that being said, let's go ahead
Chair.
and do roll call. You want
May
to
I make a
speak?
couple comments?
Yes, sir.
Please, ma'am. There's a couple things that I am going to say. The choice between asphalt and blotter, I've made the choice of going to blotter. The feds have okayed it. I am going to do that. It might be over the earmark, but I have a reserve that we have been saving up for 10 years for this project in case it does go over the earmark. I would respectfully ask you to allow us to use some of that for this project. I have the same thing for Sheridan Lake Road. We have been saving up money. We've been fiscally responsible to save that money, so in case this does go over, we have a fund we can use to cover that project. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSanto.
The point I was trying to make when I spoke about constituencies, I get calls from constituents from everybody else's area as well, and I'm happy to answer their questions. I have to base my decisions on what I hear from everybody, and I also have to give some weight to the people that voted for me to uphold my promises in my campaign. And therefore, those are the people that I'm hearing from that are saying no.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner DeSanto.
Let me say one more time. It's going to cost us more, correct, when that road's paved in Icebox Canyon? Forget the numbers, it's going to cost us more
I can't say for
Annually.
sure. I think it will.
annually.
Possibly.
You get any amount of snow at all, so you're prepared to come to us for an increased budget. Say it's in the middle of nowhere. It's an hour from Hill City to get there. If they went straight there, for how many people? Everybody's important, but can we afford those kind of dollars? That's why people live there. That's why I live where I live. I don't expect to plow the very minute it stops snowing. That's why I live there.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we're making a mistake by not at least trying to repurpose the money. The 5th of July is the drop dead date.
George, we're on.
At least
we're
we should
past
try, at least we should try to see if we can't repurpose. And then the money saved up, then we can use it. Use it on South Rochard Road with our flexibility, with our discretion, without federal oversight.
Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Buskerud,
Yes.
DeSanto,
No.
Farabee,
No.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries.
We take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break, please. Motion.
5-minute break.
Second. Second.
Do we have a motion to come out of the recess, the break?
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. 13B. Mr.,
You have to
We'll
vote on
see.
that motion, ma'am?
oh yeah, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Item B, authorization to bid bridge rehabilitation on 8 structures on Sheridan Lake Road. 8 structures starting just east of Biker Bob's Corner and continuing east for 2.5 miles are starting to show some deterioration on some of the decks. These are structures that were replaced after the 72 flood. These structures are all continuous concrete structures, cast-in-place decks. Due to the deterioration, 2 of the interior structures are posted. With the repairs we are proposing, the posting can be removed. I've talked to the inspectors already about that, and they agreed that that can be done. We are going to work on all 8 structures to stop any deterioration that may be starting. The project will consist of removing the asphalt from the concrete deck, map out the delamination of these decks, remove the deteriorated concrete and patch with solid concrete. We'll seal the deck afterwards to prevent further infiltration of moisture and chemicals into the deck. Plans for this project are being produced in-house in the highway engineer's office. Estimate for the project is about $450,000 for all 8. That includes all 8 structures, not each. Project was originally scheduled for 18, but with the current bidding environment and other projects coming in under anticipated costs, we are wishing to move it up to 2017, also to ensure its completion before any reconstruction would start along Sheridan Lake Road. We would, if approved, we would let the project in July of 2017. For this reason, we are requesting a motion to allow the Highway Department to go to bid for the rehabilitation of 8 structures along Sheridan Lake Road.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
I've got a couple of questions, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Farabee.
What are you estimating the life of those bridges?
Concrete bridge, you typically estimate them at 60 to 70 years.
Second question is, when we redo Sheridan Lake Road, will there be any disruption to the the bridge approaches?
This area, they would have to do is mill into the bridge to get a smooth transition off of the bridges. Currently, when we take this asphalt off, it's gonna be pretty smooth coming into them, but then they will mill back, and right now, we are drilling them to see how much asphalt is in there, which is something that the designers requested.
My point being, there won't be a considerably extra work. If we did it all at once, it'd be obviously the most efficient way of doing the bridge work and the road work.
The scope of the Sheridan Lake Road project did not include any bridge work. To change this now, we'd have to go through the DOT, go through with the federal monies and everything. It would be a severe delay. We feel that for this price, it's to our advantage to do it ourselves.
There'll be some extra effort involved because of
Yes.
not doing it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 13C, Mr. Wilsey.
Yes. Award recommendation, 1 new tractor with twin deck mowers. I attached the bid tabulation for that item. Bids were opened on June 7th. Authorization to bid this project was given by the Board of Commissioners on the May 16th meeting. 2 bids were received, one from Jenner Equipment, Rapid City, and one from RDO Equipment, Rapid City. Low bidder was Jenner Equipment of Rapid City. Funding for this project is provided in our 2017 budget. We recommend the motion to award 1 new tractor with twin deck mowers to Jenner Equipment, Rapid City, South Dakota, in the amount of $122,368.95.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by LaCroy. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second,
Second by DeSanto. Any discussion, please?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. DeSanto?
I believe in the previous meeting, when we voted to let you bid on this tractor will be being used in Wall, is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
It is to replace a lease tractor that we've had a lease program for the past 6 years.
Okay.
Commissioner Farabee?
Got a question or two. Maybe I'm missing it, but how much is the tractor and how much are the mowers?
We're buying them as a package deal. They don't separate them out because of it. This is a government contract that they are bidding on, and it's bid as a lump item.
Roughly how much is the tractor?
We looked at some used ones, similar size, and they were running about that $95,000. This was for used tractor. We considered bidding for used tractors, and then when we looked at the price of this, we said, doesn't make sense, let's get the 2 mowers too.
And this is a non-clutching tractor?
Pardon?
Non-clutching.
That's correct.
I'm opposed to that. I voted against going out for bid, and I'll vote again. Again, that's luxury we can't afford.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1.
Thank
Next
you
is-
very much, Commissioners.
Thank you, Tom Wilsey, for all your work. Number 14 is second reading of ordinance number 678. PJ Conover, please.
PJ Conover, Director, Planning Department. This is a request of motion for second reading to repeal temporary zoning ordinance 664 related alternative energy in all Pennington County zoning districts.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by DeSanto. Any discussion? Commissioner Farabee.
As I mentioned before, why are we being, for lack of a better word, discriminating? We still have a wheel tax ordinance on the books. It's been for, what, a year and a half now? This ordinance should never have ever occurred, but we're gonna remove it anyway. So when are we gonna remove the wheel tax ordinance?
Guess that's not on the agenda, Mr. Farabee, but if you'd like to put it on there as an item, you can, sir. Right now, we're doing second reading of ordinance number 678. Thank you, sir. And a repeal of temporary zoning ordinance number 664. on alternative energy in Pennington County. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with one no. Number 15 is planning and zoning. Mr. Conover.
Sure. The Board of Commissioners uses the consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at a request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, second reading of Major Plan Unit Development 1703 for Chris Ham, KTM Design Solutions, and approval has been recommended. Item B, Major Plan Unit Development Review 1502 for Deerfield Park Condominiums, the Council of Owners, and approval has been recommended. Item C, first reading and public hearing of Major Plan Unit Development Amendment 1704 for Kelly Development, Ryan Kelly as the agent, recommended to be continued to the July 5th, 2017 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item D, Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1705, Kelly Development, Ryan Kelly as the agent. It's been recommended to be continued to the July 5th, 2017 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item E, Layout Plat 1712, Chase and Lonnie Phillips, D.C. Scott as the surveyors, and approval has been recommended. Item F, Minor Plat 1713 and Subdivision Variance 1706 for Fred Whiting, Anderson Engineering, and approval has been recommended with waivers. Item G, first reading and public hearing of Major Plan Unit Development Amendment 1702 for Cindy Dickmeyer, Robbins Roost Cabins LLC. It's been recommended to be continued to July 18th, 2017 Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you. Is there any items A through G from the public that would like to remove any of them? Is there any items A through G from the board that would like to remove any items A through G?
E, echo.
E, okay.
E, echo, yeah.
Can we have a motion with the exception of item E, please, from the board?
So moved.
Thank you, DeSanto. And Mr. LaCroix, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Item E, Commissioner Farabee.
I guess my point on this one is we're causing these folks to jump through a bunch of hoops for no real reason other than just being arbitrary. They're gonna force these folks to come in. They want to build a house out in the middle of nowhere. Wicksville, you know, how many people there? Any idea how many people there, Commissioner DeSanto?
About 10.
Okay. So we're going to require them to get a lot size variance or a rezone because they want to build a house. We need to look at our zoning ordinance and get some reason, some common sense in it. Think of the hoops these folks have to jump through just to build a house.
Thank you. There is approval recommended on this. Any other discussion?
Right. Madam Chair, I'd also like to just kind of, to go off of what George just said, I think that one of the things that our gentleman that has done the comprehensive plan assessment pointed out was that we do need to make some changes as far as our ordinances are concerned to accommodate the different areas of our county and what they do and what they have involved and that kind of thing. So I think we're gonna eventually address those ordinance changes to make it easier, and I'm gonna say easier, for people that live in rural areas like Wicksville to get things like this done without even bringing it before us. Thank you.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I think PJ wanted to.
Well, I would invite Commissioner Farabee and Commissioner DeSanto up to our office at any time to discuss how planning department looks at these things. We don't look at it as one person wanting to put a structure on a property. We look at it as a structure that's going to be there for over 100 years and have multiple buyers. That's the way the planning department views these. So that's why these laws are in place.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Now, let me comment if I might.
LaCroix.
Go ahead, LaCroix. Lloyd.
Thanks. I think that comprehensive plan, and I think some of these things have been discussed, but I'd encourage more people to come to some of these open meetings and talk with them and get them, as they stated, you know, they had about 35 people attend. So I'd encourage myself and other commissioners get some more people out there to throw out some of those ideas that we want to get done.
We also saw on there that more people said they wanted more codes and restrictions on properties and stuff too. So if you looked
Right.
at that, it had both sides. But I am listening to what you're saying, Mr. DeSanto, and we are trying, even when we did our other ordinances for wind, and we made it so they could do it through the planning department and not have to see us. And maybe we could do some of what you're saying. And I totally agree with you, that we don't have to go through planning and then here so much
Right.
that we can give our planning department, you know, not micromanage them, but actually let them move forward on some of this so they can just say, okay, you did this, this, and this, you're good to go. So I'm with you on that as well.
We would love to be able to do that. We just can't right now.
Okay, but what he's saying is, Mr. DeSanto's saying, is that maybe we could do something like that to move forward and make, kind of like the city does.
Administrative.
And he's right, the city does some of that administrative stuff. It makes it simpler for the people coming through, so,
Yep.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Madam Chair, since you brought up the issue of what they found on their survey, I was at the Hill City meeting, and there's probably a dozen people there. I think it was 32 total, and I didn't get to all, obviously, and didn't get in here to their meeting, but over half the people in Hill City at the meeting were Hill Cityans. And I wanted to ask the guy, when he put the chart up there, how many of the people that wanted more building inspection in the county were Hill Cityans? They should have no say. People from Hill City should have no say, or Rapid City, or Wall, or New Underwood, or wherever, should have no say in a county ordinance.
Mr. Fairby,
No.
I don't want to stop you, but.
But you brought it up,
I know, but.
and you shouldn't be talking at all. You should be running the meeting.
Point of
But-
order, point of order.
At the point of order is
Point
for
of
her.
order.
Go ahead and rule.
What's your point?
Go ahead and rule.
What's your
What
point?
is your point?
Let's get back on the subject.
Mr. Fairby,
Started
subject.
it, so we have a chance to debate it.
Mr. Fairby, we're going to move forward on this vote.
I've got one other comment
Yes, sir.
on this issue. A lot size variance in Wicksville, what used to be Wicksville, South Dakota. How sad is that? A lot size variance or rezone. Who in the hell cares? It's going to keep shrinking, probably. The Phillips family, I kind of know them a little bit, and they're probably the entirety of Wicksville. All right. Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor? We need
Move to
one.
approve.
Move approval by Mr. DeSanto, second by Mr. Fairby, or Fairby, I keep calling you Fairby, LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
One thing, I'd like to say one thing, if I could have a moment. If you look at the Roberts Rules of Order, the chair can debate at this point unless we change the rules. Now, I try to be respectful, and sometimes I get frustrated, just like everybody else, and we say things, and I think everybody here has said things. So please be a little bit more respectful of what other people are saying and doing as well. And the staff needs that respect as well. Instead of pointing at them and doing things, if you're prepared for the meeting, it's okay, you can call them ahead of time on some of this stuff, because some of the questions we ask up here they're good, but they have to be prepared too. So some of this stuff, let's move forward and try to be a little bit more respectful, and in my case, not be frustrated sometimes. And I understand George's frustration on some of this, but George, just a little bit more, not pointing at the staff, but asking questions, because that's a good thing. Okay, thank you.
Page 395, it says to participate in the debate, she must relinquish the chair. I don't know what rule you're reading from, but
Okay, it's.
395, so from here on out, if you wanted to participate in the debate, you turn the gavel over.
Okay, we don't follow that book by the exact rules, and if we do, George, we're in trouble.
Well, that is Robert's Rules of Order, and I think that that we probably need to follow more closely to that book. I think that it will help us to avoid, one, getting off track, two, making personal comments about one another. We can't do that. It's just something there's no positive outcome from making personal opinions or assessments of our fellow commissioners, whether it be me about you or Lloyd or George or Ron, doesn't matter. We just can't do that any longer. And if we run directly by Robert's Rules of Order, that'll avoid that. It'll avoid that because then, whether it's me that loses my cool and says something, you can gavel me down. If you lose your cool, Lloyd can gavel you down. I mean, it'll just make for, in my opinion, it's going to make for a more professionally run meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that, but are you telling me that when I let everybody speak, I'm not allowed to speak? I'm going to do a debate. And if I was debating, if you're talking about the other night, that wasn't a debate. And it came forth that a lot of people, when they went to radio stations and other places, they didn't have the facts and didn't do their homework. So I was frustrated with that, and I'm allowed to say that I was frustrated with that. Now, if I'm debating you and saying, and I did cool down and I said, I was wrong. But when people don't do their homework, it's very frustrating. And then they go to radio stations and other places, and we have a subject in which we are talking about on this commission, and then representing it as a commissioner, because at that point, you are not representing it as a person in the constituency.
That's correct.
So there's a few things on this board I think that we need to do, and as a chair, I wouldn't mind having a meeting on some of that and having us all follow those rules.
Well, let's do that.
So I appreciate your thoughts, Mr. DeSanto, because they're good. But Ms. Hawley, do you have something?
I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, at the beginning of January of each year, you adopt exceptions to Robert's Rules, and one of them specifically states, the motion to adopt Robert's Rules of Order, the 11th edition, including any updates or amendments thereto, but not to adopt the portion that precludes discussion of issues by the chair. And the reason we do that is you're such a small board that if you're taking that commissioner out, their constituents don't have a voice. So it was felt it was more fair to allow the chair to debate and participate in the discussions to represent their constituents.
I understand that, Holly. The point I'm making is that when we make our knowledge or opinion known, I feel that that opinion should exclude our fellow commissioners. Let the public decide if there's a radio interview that a commissioner's on, that he talks and doesn't know what he's talking about. The public can decide at that point in time whether we don't know what we're talking about. But to have a fellow commissioner accuse another commissioner of not knowing what they're talking about is not, it just does not look good for us at all. It makes us look like we're totally disconnected with one another.
And I appreciate that, but again, it goes both ways because that disconnect goes out into the public and represents all of us with that disconnect. So it's not only represented up here, it's represented outside these chambers. So that has to be both ways, and I'm good with that if that's both ways. And I don't mind, and again, I've been in this chair, 6 months, and I think I've been fair and just to everybody. And one time frustrated, I think it's pretty good. So,
I'm not picking on you.
I
Madam
know.
Chair,
Okay,
out of respect for the people in the audience
thank you.
and people that could step on an agenda.
Nope,
I thi-
let's move
I
forward.
think
And
we identified, we
Yes.
probably want to make another meeting to have some discussion on this, and I think we will.
thank you for that leeway, because I think it needed to be said, and that I will try to be more respectful on things, and hopefully our commission, we can work together again inside and outside of this board, because I think, I'd say majority of the time we do. So next is the regular agenda. Road construction within a section line right-of-way. H. Thank you,
Good
Ms.
morning,
Whitmore.
Brittany Molitor, Environmental Planning Supervisor. Item H is road construction of section line right-of-way, CS 1701, to construct a 24-foot wide gravelled road within the section line right-of-way. This was continued from the June 6th Board of Commissioner meeting in order for Commissioner Farabee to meet with Mr. Schaefer on site. My understanding is that has happened, and I don't know if the applicant would like to speak to that.
Okay. Nope. Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy. Do we have a second?
Matt on site, too.
Before we go to the motioning part,
Well, we can have a motion and then discuss if we could, Mr. Farabee.
all right, I'll second it for that.
Thank you,
purpose.
sir.
Yeah, they-
Thank you, Mr. Farabee.
No,
Okay, Mr. Farabee, you're up.
I'm quite certain that the applicant doesn't intend to make a 24-foot wide road. And is it 80 acres or 40 acres? Staff report says 80 acres.
Mr. Schaefer, maybe you could answer that question, sir?
Lot 8 is 40 acres.
Now, the staff report says 80.
It includes the two lots that are
joining.
adjoined by the section line. Because you have to have both applicants, or both property owners' signatures on the, so we have two applications, one from both property owners, because that 33-foot wide is on two separate properties.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you, Logan?
Yes, it does, actually.
There's actually 340s involved, counting the applicants. You're crossing two other 40s, right?
Yes. And they have been, there is paperwork here that both owners have signed, Lot 4 and I believe 7.
Don't look at me.
Madam Chair, I went out and took a look, and there's no choice with the situation that exists, and no reasonable choice, except to allow them to diagonal across the section line right away. There's two trails, probably 10, 12 feet wide. They're not 24 feet wide. They're already there, and so obviously I'm for letting them access their property. The sadness of this is, planning to me is all about looking at the future. When this 320 acres or whatever it was laid out in the 40s, it should have been planned so that situations like this didn't happen. That's what planning is about. Instead, we harass the hell out of people. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
On these probably weren't platted, they were probably deeded off by their sections, so it wouldn't have ever gone through our planning department.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Next is vacation line number I, Mike and Paula Wilson. EJ?
1 second, Madam Chair. Itemized vacation of section line 1701.
Move approval.
Go ahead, Mr. PJ.
No, we'll
only-
we'll take what we
As
can
the
get,
public.
so recommended for, there's 3 conditions, though.
We talk about order, so we need to hear you out.
Thank you.
Move approval. We don't need to hear all that.
Okay, Mr. Conover, please.
What would you like, ma'am? Just go
Let's-
through it?
So the public knows what we're talking about, and then we can
I'm perfectly
move
fine
forward.
with that, yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
That way-
Vacation of section line 1701 to vacate the section line right-of-way, lying basically between, it's the adjoining property line for the two properties the applicants own. They have built several structures that seem to encroach in the section line setback, and by vacating the section line, they'll get rid of 66-foot section line setback, but the lot line for the zoning district would still remain, so that's an additional step that they need to do. There was a violation opened recently on this property when they came in to get a building permit. We've been working with the applicants since to bring the property into compliance, and this is just one of those steps. Highway Department has no concerns about vacating the right-of-way. The ordinance officer says that this is the step towards resolving the ordinance violation, and staff recommends approval of vacation of section line 1701 with 3 conditions.
Mr. Farabee, go ahead.
Move approval.
Move approval by Mr. Farabee, second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor,
Let
say,
me- whoa,
sorry,
whoa.
sorry. Thought you were done.
Let me, there was an old fellow used to sit up here, not in this building, but the other building, and two of his favorite words were silly and crazy. And this is just another silly example of government overreach. All this land belongs to these folks, except the right-of-way, and they're, went out and took a look at their place, and from what I saw, it looked like they were quite a ways off of the government ground, the 66 feet right away. So arbitrarily, 25 feet in town, and I don't know whether that's a side yard setback or front yard setback or whatever size, but in town you only have to have 8 feet, but out in the country where I live and these folks live, you could have 25 feet. And they have to dance through all these hoops and to get, how many, 335 signatures for a section line vacation? Just plain silly, crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fairby. Okay,
You know, and that's improper. That's very improper. Your decorum is horrible.
what's that? What are you talking about?
No, just.
You don't even know you're doing that. You're sitting there and laugh.
Because you said that, but you said actually, the 25-foot setback is in the city from houses and from the street. So, Commissioner Fairby.
You didn't hear what I said, did you?
And Mr. DeSanto, that goes always on here for respect. So I appreciate that we understand that, Mr. Fairby,
They cannot be.
you're no different than anybody else on this board or constituents. Your first quote is, "We are the slaves, they are the master."
Let's move on, please.
So try using that phrase for everybody and be respectful.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yes, we do. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Go ahead, PJ.
Item J is vacation of section line 1702 for Kroll Incorporated. Applicant is requesting a continuation to July 18th, 2017 Board of Commissioner meeting to have the surveyor present in the room at the time of the
Thank you.
presentation.
Move to continue.
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
We have items from the chair and items from commission members. Any items from commission members?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to share an item. As I've mentioned in my the past meetings, that I am a member of the South Dakota Advisory Board on Civil Rights Commission, and we held a hearing back in March in Aberdeen and took public comment. And what we were discussing is subtle effects of racism. And I kind of, when I say that, I kind of want to explain that to people, because oftentimes you're going to hear the word racism and people think it's automatically the words are an action, a physical action that a person does. There's a lot of subconscious things that happen that come out, and that's what we're talking about the subtle effects of racism. So what I'd like to do, if you can bear with me, I got about a page-and-a-half letter that was sent to us as a board from the Yankton Sioux tribe, giving written testimony. I'd like to read their testimony. And that just gives just a little enlightenment of what their consideration was of what subtle effects of racism is. So I'll start on the second page. We start our comments by defining racism as a behavior or attitude that is prejudicial towards another simply because of race. Racism can be the thought, a comment, or an action, and it can be aggressive or subtle. Racism does not discriminate against the recipient, meaning that all races, genders, ages, and socioeconomic status, employment statuses, religious, military services, and sexual orientation experience racism. Some of us experience racism so often that we are numb to it, and some of us even experience it without ever knowing. Most of the time, however, we know when we are the recipient of racist comment or action. Over the years, we have witnessed a wide spectrum of racism from very aggressive in terms of physical violence to more discreet forms such as heavy surveillance of certain shoppers in a store or refusal to rent out hotel rooms to certain people. There are still very aggressive forms of racism today, in addition to more discreet forms. At the end of the day, however, the effects is the same to the recipient. I'm going to read a little bit further on for you guys. Recently, and just after a federal elections, one of our tribal employees went into a larger cities in South Dakota in order to procure some equipment from one of our programs. While purchasing the item, the sales clerk asked our tribal employee to confirm that the tribe would not pay taxes on the purchase. Our tribal employee confirmed that the taxes are not applicable because of the tribe is the purchaser. The non-Indian sales clerk then made hostile comments that will change under, hostile comments that says that will change under Trump. The tribal employee completed the purchase and left the store because there was no response that would have been satisfactory, nor any response that would have changed the sales clerk's mind in this situation. The exchange probably did not ever cross the mind of the sales clerk, but likely continues to invade the mind of the recipient of the comment. Some of the subtle effects are lingering natures of racism comments and actions. It is very difficult to simply forget what is said and done. Even though time passes, racist words and actions are not erased. Our experience with racism may affect our jobs, our relationships with others, how we raise our children, whether we choose to seek another job, where we live, where we attend schools, whether we participate in sports or extracurricular activities, whether we attend certain work and social events. It is simply not pleasant or desirable to receive racist comments or actions, and many people will avoid it at all costs. This is why we believe that the conversation about racism needs to include the discussion about the implicit bias. Most people that exhibit racism through their thoughts, comments, or actions do not do so intentionally. It is the result of implicit bias. We all make decisions every day that are not made with the conscious awareness. They are implicit decisions. The same can be said for racist thoughts, comments, and actions. Sometimes the person making them does so without even conscious awareness. There is an increasing attempt to point out the existence of implicit bias in our society. There are tests offered by institutions such as Harvard, and even entire professions are actively addressing it, such as the American Bar Association. We do not raise the presence of implicit bias to give every racist thought, comment, or action a pass. In fact, there are many explicit forms of racism today. We simply add implicit bias into the conversation as a topic to help identify why racism is so prevalent today. Racism is a very diverse topic that it deserves and requires diverse approaches. And we are interested in participating in the future work of your committee, and thank you again for your important areas. And again, this came from the Yankton Sioux Tribe written testimony. I thought it was important to bring forward and kind of discuss a little bit because, when we talk a little bit, about the implicit bias, I'm on the community advisory board with Lon Vargas also, and that was one of the things that I took a test for. Because so often we do pass judgment unknowingly on what we're doing. And the prime example that I use to people is, it has nothing to do with race, but I know one time my wife went to the grocery store and brought out groceries, and somebody was quick to help because she was wearing a dress. If she was wearing her blue jeans, nobody would help her. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're talking about. Your first impressions, your automatic actions. If somebody's coming forward to you and I've had it. I'm covered in sheetrock and Jay comes along with his suit on into a convenience store. Who do you think gets the faster service?
Me.
I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or anything. I just wanted to bring this out into the public and have some, not discussion, but some awareness, just some awareness on it, is all it was about. So thank you for you guys' time.
Thank you. I was just wondering why you had brought it at this time, but just for us to be aware, so that's cool. Any other,
I have a comment now, we just showed.
speak into your mic, please, Mr.
This
Fairby.
wasn't subtle bias, this was outright overt biased to the Rosebud and the other tribes. I presume the other tribes share with Rosebud. This is their sacred ground, and we just overtly showed bias. We this board. No, it's wrong. They asked us, 2 letters, they asked us not to pave the road. We just ignored them. That's bias.
Thank you.
Their sacred ground, whether we believe it or not. That's their sacred ground. And I know some people say, it's so much baloney. I happen to think that is their sacred ground. I believe, and if that's what they want, then that's, they bought it. We ought to respect that.
This was just a report. Thank you.
Thank you, and I believe, in this board, with the agreement, it believes that as well. We're talking about a road, we're not talking about the property on Pace Law. The road is public, so I appreciate that. Board, we do have an item from the chair. Commissioner DeSanto's going to be Skype, I'll be gone, Busgood's going to be gone, and Mr. LaCroix also, if I can speak for you, will be gone, so we need to reschedule July 5th to either 7th or the 11th, if that works for the board. And I did hear from Commissioner Busgood, I talked to him, he would like the 11th because he has surgery, and he would like to see if he could be here on the 11th.
That works for me.
Is that okay with the board?
I would like the 11th.
Do we need that in a motion, Holly? Do we have a motion to change the meeting
July
from,
5th to,
I would make a motion to move the July 5th Board of Commissioners meeting to July 11th.
second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, board. I would like to bring, maybe we could have like Malcolm or somebody come in, Mr. DeSanto and Mr. Farabee at one time had suggested that, and just have some discussion on, what our role is and some other things on Robert's rules, and just, I think it's a good camaraderie, team building thing, so we can see what that cost is. I'll check on the costs if you want to bring someone forward or besides Mr. Chapman. Please give me some names. I think it'll be beneficial to us to move forward with a little camaraderie and then also team building. So,
Madam Chair,
yes, sir.
I believe Malcolm Chapman's had a lot of success in helping specifically executives work together. And so I see no reason why to look elsewhere. I think that he'll bring an unbiased agenda to us and help us to get things straightened out.
Thank you, Mr. DeSanto.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I tend to agree with Mark, and I think maybe we could just give direction to Holly to get some of the costs, and we'll have whatever process we need to do, because we'll have to do a doodle calendar and Malcolm's schedule, and I personally think it should be I don't know, you think about it, like a retreat type thing where you get together somewhere else besides here or something. I don't know.
We could see what those costs
Yeah,
are.
I mean-
Yep. Is that cool?
You bet.
Commissioner Farabee, you would like to weigh in on this?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you for speaking on that. I think it'll be a good thing for us. Any other things from the Chair or Commission? Okay. Items from Commission Manager?
Commissioners, what you have in front of you is the resolution of opposition that the board directed to be written at the last meeting, so I'm just seeking approval of the resolution as presented.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Commissioner LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Item B is the court voucher processing, notification of change. I'm pleased to see Judge Fifley is here to answer any questions the board may have. You got a memo from Christy Erdman in your packets. Just wanted to notify you guys of the change, and we'll stand for any questions you might have.
Commissioner Fifley. How about Judge Fifley?
I prefer my position, Madam Chairperson, but
Thank you, Judge.
any questions that you have, just by way of history, if I might take a moment.
Yes, sir.
Several months ago, we worked with the auditor's office to streamline the collections protocol for you folks in terms of those expenses that you're obligated to pay through the court system. As part of that process, we revamped the voucher itself. It's a little more streamlined and has a little more information. As we were working through that process with the State Court Administrator's Office, we were advised by them that the protocol that we were using, which is send out the voucher, we then get it reviewed for accuracy by our administrative staff. It then goes to the judge for review and approval. I just this week cut a bill. We make effort to make sure that we make this review for you folks in terms of the expenditures. Then we were actually entering those onto your computer system, the State Court Administrator's Office, as part of this review of the new process and the new voucher information sheet that we sent out to the attorneys asked us to change that. There were some concerns about liability issues, as well as checks and balances, having court staff having access to your auditor's office computerized system. So that's really the only change in terms of what county employees are being asked to do. Is we're simply not going to be entering that information into your computer system. That will be provided to the auditor's office and then inputted by your auditor's staff. We have changed that protocol. You and I, Madam Chairperson, have had some discussions about what the state court system is looking to do in terms of that application and assistance for court-appointed attorneys. I will let you know the work isn't completed yet, but it's sitting in the office of the State Court Administrative Office. Our committee completed its work in terms of some guidelines for eligibility and a new application form, and we're just waiting approval from the Supreme Court on that. And hopefully within the next several months, we'll have some good news on that. But this was just more an informational change that came about as we advised the State Court Administrator's Office what our changes were in terms of how that voucher process went and streamlining the collections program for you. We were apparently the only county in the state that was having access to a county auditor's computer system, and they asked us to step that back and not do it. That's the only change.
Thank you, Mr. Fifley. And then just the information later, once that goes through the state, maybe an update on the application and stuff that you're working on would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I do have one.
Commissioner Farabee?
So then the auditor is physically up here and you're physically over there. Is the paper carried back and forth, or is it emailed over, or how is the information?
We receive stacks of vouchers, and it's actually Kara's position, who is the one that is now entering the vouchers in conjunction with the recording of the liens.
So somebody trots over there and hauls the paper
Correct.
back?
It comes in the
Okay.
interoffice mail.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I'll
Your
see you
Honor.
Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee reports.
Met with the Fair Board. Everything's going well with moving forward with the new building. And also better than we ever expected with securing new contracts with new events that are going to provide a great deal of income to the fairgrounds.
Commissioner LaCroy?
I attended the department head meeting, but I ended up having to leave a little bit early, but you guys got the minutes for that, so that's good.
Commissioner Farabee? Oh, I'm sorry. LaCroy? Sorry.
I think nothing else to really report.
Okay. Commissioner Farabee?
Nothing.
Okay.
Oh, and Madam Chair, I would like
Oh.
to add one more thing that I forgot to add, and this number may not be exactly accurate, but the savings on the lights up from the point that the lights were installed to today is around $9,800 already.
Wow.
In electricity.
I'd like to say that I've been on the Fair Board, and they are very enthusiastic with Mr. Commissioner DeSanto and his enthusiasm to understand the ag community and what he has been learning. So just talked to Dan Warren the other day, and his thoughts are pretty awesome on you.
Awesome.
So then, also the Fire Board, I took pictures of our new buildings and the phases we're at, and they were pretty excited. And of course, they're looking at making sure we have all the emergency exits and all the fireproof stuff in our building, so I thought that was pretty cool. What other committee? I've been going to lots of different committees, but I can't remember them all.
Fire Board?
What's that?
Was there anything
Fire
from the
Board?
Fire Board?
The Fire Board is with Jerome Harvey. Remember, we have it, it was at the Rapid Valley Fire Department this week? Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
So I enjoy the committees. I enjoy going into different meetings, learning about stuff. So I appreciate the board and their thoughts on their committees, because you already know, I can't go to yours and you can't go to mine. I mean, we can, but it becomes a lot of meetings because we have side meetings with our constituents and stuff. So we appreciate it. So, all righty. Approval of the vouchers. I need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by LaCroy.
Second?
Second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion
Aye.
carries. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Farabee's a no, 3-1. Items from the public. Dan? State your name, sir.
Thank you, Dan Holsworth. I wanted to thank you guys for your day today and what you did for South Rochford Road. Also for the work that you do. I've been involved with, like I said, government for 23 years and know the challenges, know the extra work and what you have to do behind the scenes. But I think the biggest thing is when you have one individual that's constantly negative all the time, doesn't do his research, it makes it harder on the other board members as well as the public. And I appreciate Mr. Farabee taking the challenge. But on the other side of it, you need to get your research a little bit more clear. And I've asked this as being board president for Hermosa, and granted it's a small community, for years. But if that individual doesn't want to work with the rest of us, or work with the board, or with listening to the constituents, I've asked them to please resign. And I feel that way at this presence, that you're a negativity that's not helping. You're making only things worse. So, but my appreciation to the job you guys are doing. It's a thankless job. You're always under the picture and you're always under the eye. So thank you for your day.
Thank you, sir. Number 29, executive session. None. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto, second by
Second.
Farabee. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board.